sinister secrets exposed. The terrifying curse of the haunted conflict between Israel and Judah. The wind howled outside, shrieking through the barren trees like a banshee searching for lost souls. Chilling whispers curled through the air, wrapping around Sarah's heart as she clutched her two children, Jake and Lily. Something sinister brewed in the quiet suburb of Maple Grove, casting an ominous shadow over their lives. The very walls of their home trembled as the rumors took on a life of their own. Parents spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting toward the darkness, burdened by an ancient curse echoing from the conflict between Israel and Judah, a haunting that claimed the unwary. As Sarah stepped into the old school for the Halloween community event, the atmosphere buzzed with laughter, but an undercurrent of dread lurked just beneath the surface. Children darted past her, their costumes fluttering like frail moths, unaware of the whispered fears surrounding them. Shadows twisted in the corners of her vision, but she shoved the feeling aside. She had to be strong for her children. Then, Jake gripped her arm, his voice trembling. "Mom, I think I found something weird in the basement." His eyes, wide and earnest, convinced her to follow him. They descended into the dimly lit underbelly of the school, where cobwebs hung like funeral veils. Amid the dust and decay, Jake clutched a peculiar, ancient-looking relic. Its surface shimmered, and as he held it, Sarah felt a jolt of something dark ripple through her. It was an heirloom lost to time, whispered to be cursed, a harbinger of panic. She tightened her jaw, brushing away the dread. "Let us just take it home, okay?" That night, she lay in bed, sleep elusive. Visions invaded her mind. Dark figures shifted, watching, waiting. They drew nearer with each heavy breath. The harsh midnight chime of the clock echoed, screaming silently in her ears. Morning light brought reports of neighbors seeing fleeting shadows through their windows. Panic gripped Maple Grove, and Sarah was ensnared in the web. The next day, desperation found her at Officer Brady's doorstep. He greeted her with his typical charm, but there was a flicker in his eyes she couldn't shake. As she spilled her fears, she noticed his smile falter, a fleeting shadow crossing his sprightly demeanor. "You've got to be careful, Sarah," he warned, his gravelly voice laced with hidden knowledge. "This town has its secrets." Paranoia set in. Old friends now looked through her like she was a ghost. Each interaction was laced with suspicion, each smile donning a mask. When a fellow mother approached her, an unsettling knowing glint in her eyes, dread unfurled within Sarah like dark smoke. The shadows of their past connected to the suffering of ages long gone, a battle between ancient Israel and Judah that had seeped into the very fabric of their community. Just as she steeled herself to confront the evil inching closer, a soft knock at her door shattered the fragile calm. The breath froze in her lungs, heart racing wildly. Sarah's voice escaped in a whisper as she hesitated. Who was out there? What awaited her on the other side? The dark history of Maple Grove loomed, hungry for something, a sacrifice perhaps. And as the shadows danced ominously at her threshold, Sarah felt the chilling truth pulsate through the threads of her life. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. With her heart pounding and the air thick with dread, Sarah gathered her courage. She was about to confront an enigma cloaked in whispers and shadow. The phantom of a cursed legacy, tangled with her late husband's secrets, began to unfurl as she reached for the door. The moment felt suspended in time, and she steeled herself against the encroaching darkness, the unknown waiting just beyond an answer or a trap. What would she discover on the other side? As she turned the doorknob, a chill skittered down Sarah's spine. The soft creak of the door echoed in the silence, sending a wave of trepidation coursing through her. She peered into the dimly lit hallway, heart thudding, breath trapped in her throat. An unsteady figure loomed at the threshold, someone she barely recognized. "Mrs. Thompson?" The voice was thick with fear. It was Mrs. Dalton, the elderly neighbor from across the street, her face pale as moonlight. I came to warn you. Her shaking hands clutched a tattered quilt, like a lifeline in a storm. Warn me? Sarah felt a disorienting twist in her stomach. About what? I don't have much time. You must understand the relic your son found, it's bound to the curse. It ties Maple Grove to an ancient conflict, dark forces that feed on fear and despair, Mrs. Dalton warned, eyes darting over Sarah's shoulder, as if expecting something to leap from the shadows. Sarah's blood ran cold. Had she unknowingly brought this upon her family? What do you mean? How can we stop it? It's too late, Mrs. Dalton murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. They've already taken notice of you. The darkness wants to reclaim its debt. Before Sarah could respond, a low growl resonated through the air, chilling her to the core. Mrs. Dalton's eyes widened, and she stumbled back, nearly losing her footing. We must go. Now. Instinct propelled Sarah forward. She grabbed Mrs. Dalton's arm and pulled her inside, slamming the door shut behind them. Darkness crowded the corners of the room, creeping towards them like a living entity. The palpable tension sent her heart racing again. Did you see it? Mrs. Dalton's voice quaked. They are watching, waiting. Her eyes, filled with terror, locked onto Sarah's. We mustn't let them in. Outside, a chorus of whispers rose, threading through the cracks in the walls. Sarah glanced at her children, blissfully unaware and in the other room, playing. They were oblivious to the nightmare unfurling around them. We have to protect them. We can't let them take them. Sarah shouted, her voice breaking. The weight of dread pressed upon her chest. Mrs. Dalton's expression hardened, and she nodded. There's a way you must confront the spirit tied to the relic. It can either bind you to its power or free you from it. But, she hesitated, swallowing hard. It demands a sacrifice. Shivers raced through Sarah. A choice loomed before her, dark and heavy. Was she to sacrifice part of herself? Or perhaps something far worse? The shadows outside twisted and lurked, seeming to lean closer as if sensing her turmoil. The murmur grew louder, invasive, choking. The pictures on the walls quivered, and lights flickered, plunging them into brief darkness. Jake! Lily! Panic surged in her voice, cutting like glass. Stay close. As the shadows danced, tendrils of cold air snaked into the room, wrapping around her ankles like icy fingers. Sarah could feel the past crawling back to claim its due. The walls seemed to twist, revealing secrets, blood spills, and long-forgotten cries of terror. I'll do whatever it takes, she breathed, lips dry. The temperature dropped even further, frost creeping to her fingertips. Above the flickering lights, a muted sound echoed, an otherworldly chant that reverberated through the room, making the ground tremble beneath her feet. The relic Jake had found pulsed like a living thing, a heartbeat intertwined with a curse that longed for release. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the corner of her eye, hazy and indistinct, yet undeniably there. Heart racing, she faced the apparition, cold sweat dotting her brow. What do you want from me? The whispers deepened, swirling in a malevolent crescendo. The figure twisted, revealing a face morphed by anguish, eyes ablaze with fury and despair. Just then, the lights died, plunging them into total darkness. The air turned thick with dread, and a solitary voice broke through, guttural and piercing. Make your choice. Was there still time to escape this nightmare? A decision needed to be made, but the deeper she sank into this dark legacy, the more she realized everything could change in an instant. What would Sarah choose, and would it save her family or doom them all? The air was thick, suffocating. Sarah's heart thundered in her ears, drowning out the whispers that clawed at her sanity. The lights flickering back to life gave little comfort. Instead, every burst illuminated the shadowy shapes swirling in the corners, each pulse suggesting something sinister lurked just beyond her reach. Listen to me, Sarah, Mrs. Dalton pleaded, her voice quavering like a fragile leaf in the wind. You have to understand, the spirit seeks a bond. It needs a host to fuel its rage, and it will choose without hesitation. The children's laughter felt like a distant echo now, a fading memory of innocence trapped amidst chaos. Sarah turned to look at them, overwhelmed by a desperate need to shield them, her little Jake and Lily believing they were still safe, oblivious to the encroaching danger. But that delusion shattered when she caught a glimpse of a dark figure gliding past the doorway. It was fleeting, a flicker of movement that sent fury and dread crashing through her. "No!" she screamed, locking her gaze firmly upon Mrs. Dalton. "What do I do? How do I confront it? It's the relic. You must take it back to where the darkness began," Mrs. Dalton urged, shaking off despair. "Only then can you confront the curse, but it will come at a price you're paying, your fear. You must face what you've been running from." A hollow laugh echoed deep, guttural, drowning everything else out. Was it from the apparition? Or was it part of her own mind fracturing? Sarah stepped back, instinctively reaching for the relic, the small trinket that held the power and the burden of the ancient curse. A cold sweat pooled at the base of her back as her fingers brushed its surface, a pulse striking through her, igniting memories best left buried. Sights of her past flooded her vision, sad nights, broken promises, and dashed dreams. Images twisted like a grotesque slideshow, fueling the darkness surrounding her. The whispers grew louder, urging her to surrender, feeding on her insecurities and failures like a venomous serpent coiling ever tighter. Lily's voice broke through the haze, tiny but steady. "Mom, I'm scared." Sarah forced a smile, turning back to the children, but the warmth of her affection began to crumble under the weight of fear. "Everything's going to be okay, sweetheart." But deep down, she knew it wasn't. The relic pulsed with urgency in her hand, a thrumming heartbeat resonating with her own. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, but the walls echoed a dark lullaby in response, a song of despair. "Sacrifice your fears, your burdens," Mrs. Dalton interjected, jarring Sarah from her internal turmoil. The old woman's eyes glowed with understanding mixed with fright. "But what is precious to you will also be demanded. It's a balance, Sarah. They want to feast on not just fear but identity." The shadows thickened, creeping closer, seeping through cracks like a rancid fog. Tendrils of ice danced around her, bifurcating the last threads of her courage. "I can't do this," she breathed, but even her internal protests bubbled with doubt. "Gather your strength. Stand firm, face it." The last bit of Mrs. Dalton's admonition seeped in. Jake and Lily clung to one another, confusion painting their faces. A flicker of warmth ignited in Sarah. "We'll face this, together," she said fiercely, squeezing the relic as if it might anchor her to reality. The temperature dropped once more, and shadows melded into a singular entity, a flat black mass swirling beneath her feet. "You've drawn near, now feed me!" A haunting voice boomed as the floor cracked, splintering under the pressure of the malevolence rising to claim its due. Time to choose Sarah or lose everything. All her fears, the shadows, amalgamated into a singular question she had to answer, a resonating echo in her mind pounding harder than her heart. Would she sacrifice her deepest fear, or risk losing her children to the darkness that threatened to engulf them? As the darkness swirled closer, tendrils reaching out, Sarah realized her choices now had weight heavier than ever before. The stage was set. The darkness craved, and she could feel its hunger deep inside her. The cost of liberation lay bare before her. What would she let go? What would she be willing to sacrifice to save her children from a fate worse than death? Fear gripped Sarah, cold and unyielding, as the oppressive darkness wrapped around her. The ground beneath began to tremble, as if it too sensed the weight of her decision. Shadows whispered promises of power, twisting her thoughts like vines wrapping around a tree until they suffocated the life within. "Mom!" Jake's voice was a whisper now, thin and fragile. He and Lily were glued to each other, eyes wide with terror. Those innocent faces, her reason for fighting the darkness, brought a fresh surge of resolve. "I won't let it take you," she hissed through clenched teeth, the relic humming with energy in her grip. The shadows recoiled slightly, sensing her fierce determination, and in that moment she understood what was needed. The truth clawed at her heart, an unsettling realization. "Mrs. Dalton, what do I have to give?" The woman's expression darkened, ancient sorrow swimming in her eyes. "You will face yourself, Sarah. This spirit feeds on guilt, Regret it wants your essence to grow stronger. It will strike at what you hold dearest. An icy chill sliced through the air, accessing memories she thought she had buried. Failures, lost opportunities, secrets she'd hidden even from herself. I can't lose them. Then you must confront yourself, the shadows in your heart. Open your soul to the darkness, but be ready. It will come for your fears. A sharp crack split the air. Splinters flew from the walls as the spirit grimaced against the light, a mass of anger and vengeance. Whispers escalated to frantic roars, echoing in her mind, a cacophony of doubt. She felt the relic vibrate in a rhythm that matched the rapid heartbeat pulsing in her chest. You are not enough, Sarah. The darkness taunted, tendrils brushing against her skin like icy fingers. Was it true? Had she failed her children? A wave of guilt crashed over her as she saw visions of missed birthdays, of arguments, of unspoken words. Each moment weighed heavy, pushing down until she struggled to breathe. Time's running out. Mrs. Dalton shouted, fear lending urgency to her voice. Sarah locked her gaze onto the relic, feeling the bridge between her will and the abyss widen. She must face what lay inside, to pull from it the courage desperately needed. Feed it your fear, but draw your strength from it too, the old woman implored, pushing through the din of hellish laughter. The shadows surged, stretching toward her, hungry for the despair that hung in the air. In that fleeting second, Sarah realized what had to happen. She had to confront her darkest moments, those felt in absence, in silence, the hurts she kept hidden under layers of a forced smile. I see you, she yelled, shaking the remnants of guilt free. I will not hide any more. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, the relic lighting up with a brilliant glow. The shadows hesitated, momentarily startled at her defiance. The air crackled with energy, and the fear that had paralyzed her began to transform, a strange but fierce power igniting deep within. Let them go, she cried, feeling the darkness push back as she unleashed the fury of her truth. You will not take my children! You are nothing without my pain! The shadows shrieked, but instead of retreating, they surged forward, driven by desperation now. A vortex began to whirl at her feet, the relic amplifying her voice, magnifying her vulnerability, as she opened her heart to the storm. What will you sacrifice? The spirit rasped, its voice a low growl that sent shudders through her. I sacrifice my guilt. I sacrifice my shame, she shouted, forcing the words even as they threatened to slip away. Through the fray, she caught a glimpse of Jake and Lily wide-eyed, bracing against the unseen terror clawing toward them. You must give it all, Mrs. Dalton urged, voice fading under the roar of the tempest. I give you my pain, Sarah screamed, and she felt it, her heart churning, purging all that had weighed her down. The relic responded, glowing brighter, intensifying the backlash against the black mass before her. As the energies collided, shadows launched into chaos, unraveling with furious screams while spiderwebs of darkness pulsated, flickering like dying embers. The ground shuddered beneath her. The breath was sucked from her lungs as everything around them began to swirl, the darkness shrieking in rage. It was then that she glimpsed something, a shimmering figure in the chaos, ethereal and familiar, a trapped visage of her past begging for release, and beneath the surface of her newfound courage, a creeping dread slithered. What if releasing that pain led her to sacrifice what she cherished most? Gather your strength, Mrs. Dalton cried out, but the shadows howled louder than her voice, a terrifying reminder of what lay at stake, what would emerge from this fight: redemption or ruin. The darkness swelled and squirmed, a powerful adversary that left Sarah wondering, would the sacrifice be worth it, or would it bring an unspeakable loss? Each moment stretched thin, a fragile breath suspended against obliteration. Just as she felt herself teetering into the void, a chilling realization broke through the chaos. Was the figure she saw truly a vision of hope, or was it her deepest dread taking form, ready to drag her down with it? Every second mattered now. The final choice loomed. The tempest around her twisted violently, shadows writhing like serpents hungry for flesh. Sarah took a shaky step forward, heart racing, the relic glowing fiercely in her grasp. The shadows screamed her name, a cacophonous blend of despair and mockery. Sarah! They cried, echoing her thoughts. You are nothing! You will lose everything! Fury rose within her. She thought of Jake and Lily, of their innocence, their trusting eyes. No! She shouted, and the sound sliced through the chaos. A choice must be made, the darkness hissed, its breath icy against her skin. To win, you must let go of something more than just guilt. A sudden clarity cut through the noise. She could see the swirling figure more clearly now, a ghostly image of her mother, a woman long lost, eyes sad yet expectant. I can't, Sarah whispered, voice shaking. I can't sacrifice you. But even as the words left her lips, she knew it wasn't her mother she needed to sacrifice. It was the chains of her past that weighed her down. Those memories, each a shard of broken glass in her heart, needed release. Face me! She screamed, the shadows quaking in response. They shrieked in fury, their whispers morphing into a chorus of her past failures, all the wrongs she couldn't right, all her regrets. Pain swirled thickly, filling her lungs. You're already a motherless child, the spirit taunted, using her guilt against her. A wild rage fed her, sparking a bright flame of truth. No! I am not doomed to repeat your mistakes. With a deep breath, she let the relic pulse with her energy. You're here because I refused to hide. The shadows fell back, recoiling from her defiance. But the flicker of hope dimmed as the apparition of her mother moved closer, its face becoming ghastly, features twisting into those of accusation. Let go of me! Sarah screamed. A flood of warmth poured through her, memories flooding her mind, laughter, love, support, everything the spirit sought to twist into despair. You're weak! The darkness howled, its tendrils snaking closer toward her children, still frozen in fear. A primal scream erupted from her throat, echoing through the storm. You think I'm weak? Then let us see who truly fears the light. Drawing from the relic, she released all that lay within, a deluge of heartache and regret, sorrow mingled with an aching love. I set you free! But just as the chaos erupted to envelop her, gripping terror clawed at Sarah's heart. If setting the shadows free demanded her devotion, what else might she lose? In that moment, clarity shattered. The visage of her mother flickered, revealing another face beneath her own, young and terrified. A horrifying reflection captured in time, trapped within the conflict of her mind. Release me, the echo of herself begged. Suddenly, a piercing shriek splintered through the air, rippling with the fury of an inferno. The figure of her shadow self surged forward, a blur of darkness threatening to absorb her whole. Panic rose like bile in her throat. Sarah felt the ground shift, a violent tremor cracking through the reality around her. The relic in her hand began to dim, its light flickering as if it, too, was caught in the crossfire. Mom! Jake cried out, severing her focus. Panic-stricken and desperate, she turned to her children, dread pooling in her gut. What if the process of letting go meant losing them? A new heartbreak sliced through her, deeper than any darkness could penetrate. Time raced on like a wild beast. Stay with me! She shouted fiercely, determination flooding her veins even as despair threatened to engulf her. Yet the shadows had a power of their own, whispering temptation, feeding on every flicker of her doubt. In that storm of terror, the question loomed larger than before: what price would she pay to truly be free? As the dark figure loomed closer, a new awareness dawned within her. The true sacrifice wasn't just her guilt, it could be her children. Would she dare to risk everything for a chance to break the cycle? Just then, a piercing wail erupted from the shadows, an anguished cry that echoed her fears. Could she withstand the price, or was the soul of her family at stake, tangled in the deceitful webs of darkness? That final realization struck like a lightning bolt. In the heart of this chaos, Sarah's resolve must stand against unfathomable loss. The final battle was about to begin, and deep down, she understood. Only one question mattered now: which of them would emerge unscathed, or would they all be swallowed whole? The ground shook violently beneath her feet, cracking the earth like an eggshell. Shadows twisted around her, clawing at the air, desperate to pull her into their suffocating embrace. Sarah's heart raced, her breath quick and shallow. Jake! Lily! she screamed, her voice barely piercing the chaos around her. "Mom!" came Jake's terrified call, breaking through the darkness. She turned toward him, her pulse hammering in her ears. The flickering light from the relic was growing dimmer, each pulse echoing her faltering hope. The figures of her children stood at the edge of the chaos, distanced by a widening gulf of twisted shadows. Lily's bright eyes were wide with fear, reflecting the glints of light from the relic. But they wouldn't stay safe for long. The dark figure, her shadow self, loomed closer, its intentions clear. "Let me take over," it hissed, a chilling wind enveloping her. "No!" The word exploded from her lips, but uncertainty joined the fear clawing at her heart. What if this darkness was stronger than her? What if it truly could protect her children? "You will lose them," the shadow snickered, like a cruel whisper in her ear, just outside her field of vision. "Enough!" Sarah shouted, lifting the relic high above her head. The darkness recoiled, momentarily wavering as the relic flared in defiance. Memory surged within her, moments of laughter echoing in her mind, both terrifying and beautiful, grounding her against the storm. She couldn't give in. Not now. Drawing a deep breath, she focused. "You want me to sacrifice? Then here's my choice." The words rang out with unexpected clarity. A luminescent glow sparked from the relic, pushing back against the shadows with fierce intensity. The darkness shrieked, recoiling as shadows faltered under the assertive light. But the figure of her shadow self stepped closer, its features twisted into a grotesque imitation of her own face, more taunting than familiar. "You have no choice, Sarah. Your children, their lives depend on you embracing me." The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. The darker self wasn't just a demon. It was a part of her, her unreconciled fears, her betraying doubts, all wrapped into one sinister entity. But could she accept that truth? Never. She shook her head vigorously, desperate to break free of its influence. "You are not me." But the relentless wailing of shadows pierced her resolve. "You wish to fight destiny?" The figure snarled, appearing impossibly close now, claws outstretched. "Then you will lose it all." A sudden, suffocating weight pressed against her chest. She stumbled backward, glancing at Jake and Lily, their faces filled with horror. The shadows reached for them, tendrils slithering across the ground, curling closer. "No! Stay back!" she yelled, stepping between her children and the encroaching darkness. The relic in her grasp flared dramatically, a fierce light that made the creatures flinch. But deep down, fear clawed at her once more. Would this be enough? Would unleashing her true strength save them or tear them apart? "I will not be taken," she shouted, digging deep into her heart, drawing out the love and memories that kept her standing. "I set you all free. I will choose love over fear." With one final surge of energy, she thrust the relic forward as a blinding beam shot out, illuminating the dark figure and the shadows swirling around her. An anguished howl erupted, shaking the very foundation of their reality. The darkness rippled as if in pain, and in that moment, Sarah glimpsed the truth buried beneath the chaos, a flicker of the real her, trapped in tangled chains of despair and grief. "Mom!" Jake cried, reaching out. "Hold on to me!" She yelled back, body shaking as the shadows writhed violently, almost alive in their agonizing thrashing. As the darkness convulsed, Sarah felt something shifting within her. The ground trembled again, but now it felt like a herald of change. The air crackled with energy, and just when it seemed hope might drown in despair, she caught a whisper, a voice intermingling with the chaos. "Embrace the sacrifice. To choose is to decide what to save." Staring into the billowing darkness, she realized the foreshadowing truth. Sacrifice was not about losing something, it was about choosing what to hold on to. But a chilling dread settled in her stomach, heavier than the shadows that loomed before her. What would she have to truly let go of to sever those bonds? As the shadows flickered and surged, Sarah steeled herself. Would she be brave enough to confront what lay ahead? The storm crackled violently, and just when the light seemed ready to consume the darkness, she understood freedom might require a gravely painful price. Would she pay it? Would her choice bring them salvation, Or was this just the beginning of an even deeper abyss? The blinding light surged forward, illuminating the darkness that had threatened to swallow them whole. Shadows writhed, twisting and contorting like a tempest. Sarah felt the warmth of the relic against her skin, a beacon of hope in an ocean of despair. But fear still gnawed at her. This wasn't over yet. "Mom! Do something!" Jake shouted, panic slicing through his voice. Beside him, Lily trembled, her grip on her brother's arm tightening as if the pressure would shield them from the oncoming dread. "Stay close," Sarah barked, heart racing with every syllable. The shadows shrieked in protest, furious at the light searing their edges. Yet the dark figure, her sinister twin, seemed unfazed, its mocking grin widening. "Foolish girl," it hissed, the words dripping with venom. "You don't understand what you're doing. You may illuminate the dark, but I'm still part of you, and I will always return." A surge of ice-cold dread flooded Sarah's veins. "I won't let you!" she roared, focusing every ounce of her will into the relic. But as she felt the energy flowing through her, doubt crept in. What if she was wrong? What if embracing her shadow was the only way to save her children? The ground beneath them cracked again, fissures spreading like spider webs, threatening to pull them into the abyss below. "We have to move!" she yelled, but her feet felt rooted to the spot. "Mom!" Jake's voice cracked, a fresh wave of terror adding urgency to his plea. The shadows lunged, tendrils stretching and snapping like hungry serpents, reaching for her children. Sarah's heartbeat thundered in her ears, and in that moment, desperation overrode her instincts. "No! I am not afraid." She thrust the relic forward, another surge of light blasting outward, but this time, she focused her intention not just on defeating the shadow but on confronting it. "I see you. You won't be my prison anymore." The dark figure writhed, its face distorting, flickering like a dying flame. "You think you can simply cast me out?" It spat, its voice a raspy growl. "I am your grief, your anger, your pain. You cannot erase me." A dense fog wrapped around Sarah's mind, but amidst the confusion, small moments glimmered: her laughter with Jake, the sparkle in Lily's eyes during carefree evenings. Memories flooded back, weaving an intricate tapestry of love and resilience. "I will not be defined by my fears," Sarah screamed, pushing back. The light from the relic sparked and crackled, fizzling with energy, but the darkness wasn't finished. A horrifying cry erupted from the shadow, echoing with a myriad of her own forgotten regrets. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and Sarah felt the very air grow thicker. "No!" she gasped as she started to collapse, her breath constricted. "Mom!" Jake reached for her, but the shadows encircled him, their cold claws scraping dangerously close. "Get back!" Sarah shouted, instinctively acting, but the relic began to dim. Panic rose within her. "Focus!" She willed herself, but doubt gnawed weakly at the edge of her resolve. What if her choices cost them everything? The darkness surged, tendrils snaking and writhing in agonizing hunger. "Return to me, Sarah. Choose." It beckoned, a sinister invitation that made her stomach churn. There was a choice to make, but what cost lay within her heart? The relic sputtered, and shadows began to creep forward again. "You can't hide forever," the dark figure cackled, drawing closer, a twisted mockery of her own face staring back. In that moment of crisis, Sarah understood. She could not fight forever. To defeat this darkness, she had to embrace her light, even if it meant losing something dear. Love didn't mean being without pain, it meant carrying it forward, integrating it, and choosing joy. "I choose to love," Sarah bellowed, a reckless determination igniting within her. But just as the shadows recoiled, the earth ached with a pulse of dread. A low rumble echoed ominously as a new shadow emerged, more ominous than the first. "And I choose to take everything you hold dear." As the vortex deepened, the very ground beneath them splintered further into chaos. Sarah's breath caught. What waited on the other side of acceptance? Would she find strength, or would everything she loved be lost forever? The veil of darkness loomed just beyond, waiting to seal their fate. The ground beneath them quaked violently, ripping apart. Sarah stumbled, clutching the relic, desperately trying to hold on to the warmth it provided. Each pulse of energy felt weaker, threatening to fizzle out under the weight of the encroaching shadows. "Mom! We can't stay here!" Jake yelled, his voice tinged with panic. He pulled at Lily, who stood frozen in shock, her eyes wide and glistening with fear. "Lily, come on!" Jake cried, his heart racing, the shadows edging closer, whispering of terrible things yet to come. "I don't want to leave you!" Lily screamed, but instinctively, Sarah reached for her, pulling her close. Time was running out. With a renewed sense of urgency, Sarah turned to her children. "We're getting out of this." She felt the power of the relic coursing through her, swirling with the memories of love, joy, and connection. "On my count!" The ground trembled again, echoing a sinister growl from the dark figure looming in the distance. "You think you can escape me? I am the heart of your anguish." It slithered closer, its voice crawling into her mind like a tar pit. "You can't run from yourself." But Sarah wasn't listening. 1. 2. Her grip around the relic tightened. The shadows were stretching, reaching, but her light was too bright if only for a moment. 3. She shouted, and they broke into a sprint. The moment felt surreal, as if time had split, allowing an ounce of clarity amidst chaos. It was a blur of screams, footsteps, and terror. The children ran behind her, and she could feel their breaths quick, desperate. "Behind us!" Jake yelled, glancing back. The shadows were darting forward in a frenzy, eager to consume. Sarah felt the heat of panic rising like bile. "Keep going," she urged, pushing them farther into the blinding light. The relic flared, illuminating a path as the darkness twisted and hissed in retaliation. "Don't look back." They lunged forward, dodging cracked earth and creeping shadows. The path up ahead began to pulse, a swirling vortex of light and dark, a gaping mouth threatening to swallow them whole. She could almost hear the echoes of long-lost voices, sending chills down her spine. "Not again," she whispered under her breath. But just then, Lily stumbled, her foot caught in a jagged crack. "Mom! Help!" she cried, her small frame tumbling to the ground. Panic seized Sarah as she reached out. "No!" Jake screamed, grabbing Sarah's arm. "We can't stop. We have to keep moving." The shadows convulsed, licking at their heels as they fled. "Lily!" With a fierce urgency, Sarah turned back, feeling the surge of energy from the relic. "I'm coming!" She reached for her daughter, pulling her up as the shadows clawed at her legs. The moment she intertwined their hands, the relic shimmered, the light flaring brighter. "Go! Just run!" Sarah shouted, adrenaline coursing through her as the collective fear began to crush in. They ran faster, but the dark figure loomed behind them, more monstrous, almost human. Every step it took echoed the torment of the past. "You can't escape me. I will find you, no matter where you go." Sarah's heart raced. They were running into a storm, a promised void begging for their surrender. With every ounce of will remaining, she amplified the light. "Not today!" Just as they reached the threshold of the light, the dark figure took one final step closer. A nail-like claw shot out, grazing Sarah's shoulder with a searing pain that lanced through her body. "You will regret this!" it screeched, the shadows howling in delight as it grasped for her. A blinding flash erupted, and for a moment, everything felt suspended, lost in an eerie calm. But then, the shadows retreated, vanishing into the light. Yet Sarah could sense a deepening horror, a prerogative that this was far from over. Gasping for breath, Sarah and her children stumbled into the light, but it dimmed, flickering ominously as shadows loomed at the edges. "What now?" Jake asked, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Sarah whispered, her thoughts swirling. The relic pulsed weakly in her hand, a haunting reminder that their escape wasn't complete. The air thickened with an unbearable dread, and a dark whisper slithered back into her thoughts, a promise left unfulfilled. "I will return, and when I do, I will take everything." As the light flickered more violently, Sarah clenched her teeth, realizing they hadn't truly escaped. Instead, they had merely opened a door to something worse. What new nightmare awaited them on the other side? Her heart raced as the shadows began to gather once again. Get ready, she warned her children. This fight was far from over, and deep inside, Sarah could feel the dark presence waiting for its chance to reclaim its hold over her. Could love indeed vanquish this terror, or would the shadows prove stronger than the light? The light sputtered, dimming to an unsettling twilight as shadows danced with murderous glee at the periphery. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing like thunder in her ears, as she tightened her grip on the relic. Its warmth flickered uncertainly, mirroring her fading hope. "Mom, what do we do?" Jake's voice quaked, barely more than a whisper. "Stay close," Sarah snapped, instinctively pulling the children behind her. She could feel the oppressive weight of darkness closing in, its chill wrapping around them like a vice. Twisting shadows flickered, revealing the grotesque outline of the dark figure as it loomed closer, the edges of its form undulating with a pulse of malevolence. "You're in my domain now, Sarah. Here, the past will consume you." A breath hitching in her throat, she faced the looming terror. "No! I won't let it." It was a facade of defiance, but inside she felt the creeping despair. The relic glimmered with an ember glow, pushing against the advancing void. Suddenly, a shriek filled the air. Lily. A smaller shadow darted from behind her, a creature spawned from the darkness, clawing at her ankles. "Mom! It's got me!" Her voice fractured into panic. "Lily!" Sarah's instincts kicked in. She lunged forward, yanking her daughter free from its grasp, the relic flaring up, pushing back the clutches of darkness for a brief moment. But the respite was fleeting. "Foolishness!" The dark figure's voice dripped with disdain. "You cannot save them all." It advanced with sickening slowness as shadows twisted around its form, a dark symphony of malice. Sarah's blood ran cold. Panic surged as she threw a glance at Jake, who stood trembling next to her. "Keep moving!" she yelled, urging them toward a faint glimmer in the distance, the light steadily flickering. With renewed urgency, they dashed forward. Each step felt like a race against time, against despair. But as they ran, the shadows slashed into the ground, more vicious and hungry. Jake stumbled, the realization hitting him like a hammer. "Mom, we can't run forever. We have to find a way to fight back." "Trust me," she shouted back, desperation tinging her voice. The relic pulsed violently, and for a split second, she thought she could see the various memories imprinted within its light faces smiling back, the essence of love and warmth that had once enveloped her family. "Mom, look out!" Lily screamed, pointing behind them. The dark figure surged forward. Its visceral form was becoming more defined, twisted features contorting in a predatory grin. "You think that light can protect you? You think that your love can shield you from what I am?" An explosive fury ignited within Sarah. "You don't know us!" She lifted the relic high, the light radiating outwards, illuminating the darkness in defiance. "You will not take us!" But the shadows advanced, undeterred, slinking through the light like ink spreading through water. She felt the relic trembling in her grip, pulsing like a heartbeat, as if it too was afraid. "Mom, it's too strong!" Jake cried, his voice cracking under the weight of impending doom. "What do we do? What do we do?" "It's just too..." But before she could finish, the shadows lunged forward with a ferocious rush, enveloping them in an icy grip that forced a gasp from her lungs. Everything halted, a suffocating silence crashing down. Then came the voices. Whispers clawed at Sarah's mind, a cacophony of torment. "You're ours forever, you can't escape, fight it, Mom," Jake urged, his eyes wide with fear. With a primal scream, Sarah pushed through the wave of voices trying to suffocate her will. She could feel her pain feeding the shadows, feeding the dark embrace. But her love for her children surged stronger. "Now!" she shouted, bringing the relic down. Color erupted as the shadows recoiled, and slowly, but surely, the warmth expanded. For a moment, they were free. But as she dared to believe, the shadow gathered again, darker than before. "You will pay for this, I will return, and when I do, you will suffer." The light dimmed in response, revealing splintered paths leading deeper into the darkness. "Mom?" Jake asked, his voice trembling with uncertainty. "Stay close," she whispered, swallowing the growing dread. It was far from over. As they pressed onward, the shadows shifted, revealing ghostly images of their past. Memories swirling, unsavory moments waiting to strike. "What is that?" Lily's voice trembled, pointing ahead. A shadowy figure stood at the far end, someone familiar, someone lost. The air thick with dread. Could they face what lay in wait? "Whatever it is, don't be afraid," Sarah said, her heart pounding. But inside, doubt gnawed at her courage. What had they truly unleashed? The shadows hung thick in the air, a suffocating cloak that twisted around Sarah, Jake, and Lily. They stood together, hearts pounding as the familiar figure stepped into the fading light. It was a specter of her past, a reflection of everything she feared to confront. Her late husband, David. Sarah, his voice rang hollow, a ghostly echo that vibrated through her bones. "You couldn't save me then," her heart twisted painfully. "I didn't know how. I tried." The shadows around him swirled, feeding off her self-doubt, deepening the chill in the air. "You're not strong enough, are you?" The haunting smile on his ghostly face morphed into something sinister, an embodiment of her regrets. "No!" The protest escaped Sarah's lips like a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. The relic tightened in her grip, its light flickering against the encroaching dark. "I won't let you take them. You cannot protect them from the darkness that dwells within you." David's form shimmered, flicking like a candle in the wind. "The darkness seeks to claim your heart, and your love will turn to bitterness." "Stop!" Jake yelled, taking a step toward the shadow. "That's not our dad. That's not him. Stay together," Sarah shouted, grabbing Lily's hand fiercely. Desperation clawed inside her, a battle between pain and love raging within. "You are not what they say, none of it is true. I choose to fight." With a deep breath, she raised the relic high above her head, its light pulsing with vigor. "I am not afraid to confront my fears." The radiant glow surged around her, and the shadows shrank back, momentarily daunted. But just as she thought she'd made progress, the darkness thickened again, a tide of anguish pushing against her, feeding on her past. "You foolish woman," the shadows hissed, drawing closer, licking at the edges of her resolve. "You cannot escape your loss." "Enough!" Sarah shouted, her voice echoing in defiance against the creeping despair. "I will not let you control me. I will confront my grief, my shame, my guilt. Then you will lose everything you hold dear." The figure of David twisted, becoming more grotesque and distorted. "Embrace it. Allow me to show you what true power can do." "Mom!" "No!" Jake's voice cracked as he struggled to remain steady. "Don't listen to it. It isn't real." It was an instant a sharp bite of choice glimmered amid the chaos. Sarah felt the warmth of her children near her, the pull of their love grounding her in the midst of despair. "No!" she roared into the depths. "I will sacrifice the pain, and I will reclaim what is mine." And in that moment, for the first time, she realized the true power lay not in running from her darkness, but in accepting it. Light spread through her body, radiating not just from the relic, it was her heart, igniting with resolve. "Let it go!" Mrs. Dalton's voice urged within her mind, reverberating against the shadows. "In facing your past, you will find liberation." The relic pulsed fervently as Sarah stepped forward, the light expanding outward in waves, washing over the dark figure before her. Shadows shrieked, recoiling as beams of her love pierced through the chaos. "I choose to love without fear," she bellowed, letting go of all the burdens she had carried, the pain, the grief, the guilt that had once defined her. Embracing the discomfort, Sarah opened her heart fully to the light. Illuminated by the relic, the specter faltered, the darkness swirling like a tempest against a beacon. "No! What are you doing?" David's shadow writhed in agony, twisting into the ethereal mist. "I release you!" she cried, her voice powerful and unshakable. The shadows clawed, desperate to hold on to her torment, but she stood firm, every ounce of her being rejecting their pull. The warmth flooded her chest, the darkness around them unraveled. Tendrils coiling around her heart withdrew, revealing her children bathed in luminescence. The shadows twisted erratically, shrieking as they faded into nothingness. With a final burst of brilliance, the relic shattered into shimmering sparks, dispersing the remnants of darkness into the ether. Silence fell, heavy and profound. Sarah looked down at Jake and Lily, their eyes wide but shining with newfound light. "We did it," Jake breathed, awestruck. "Yes, we did," Sarah said, kneeling to wrap her children in her arms, feeling the warmth of their acceptance encircle her. "What about?" Lily's voice trembled, glancing around the now quiet surroundings. "It's gone," Sarah reassured, wiping tears of relief as the weight she had endured began to lift. "We've broken free." A soft glow resonated in the remnants of the relic, casting a gentle light over them, a reminder that even in darkness, love creates a path back to light. But then the stillness transformed. A chill brushed through the air, and shadows began to shift far beyond the tree lines, hesitant claws still lingering. A flicker of dread crossed Sarah's mind. Would they truly remain free? But at that moment she knew one thing: she'd stand guard over her family, face whatever unknowns that lay ahead. Together they walked back into the warm embrace of Maple Grove, the weight of the ancient curse finally lifting. The air was lighter, and a new dawn broke. "Remember," Sarah said, squeezing her children's hands tighter. "We take this journey together." At the edge of the neighborhood, she turned back, newfound confidence rising in her chest. Whatever shadows dared approach them would find no easy prey. Refusing to let fear dictate her family's fate, Sarah took a steady breath and moved into the light, her heart ablaze with love, ready to propel her into an uncertain but promising future. As they continued their stride, the whispers of the past faded away, a powerful reminder that embracing one's truth, though fraught with pain, wove a resilience stronger than any shadow. Now was the moment of courage, and Sarah was ready to embrace it fully. And you, reader, what will your choice be? Don't let this moment pass. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that unravel deeper truths. Smash that like button now. Feed the algorithm and keep the light shining for more adventures. Flood the comments section with your reactions, your theories, and what you think will happen next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Let us spread the love and bravery together.